All right. How's everybody? Yes! You got extra sleep last night. Come on, wake up. 9 o'clock, you look good. Some of you even took a shower. Thank you for that. Person sitting beside you saying thanks for using the soap. Want to try deodorant next week? That'd be great. Hey, I'm Arthur. I'm one of the pastors here, and I want to welcome you to Southcrest. If you're watching online, I want to tell you good morning, hello, how are you? You may be watching this later on, but wherever you are, we really want to tell you we're glad you're joining us. And, of course, the awesome people in LaGrange want to tell you good morning. Love you guys. You're amazing. Love to see what's going on with you guys there. Hey, real quick question. This is going to be the most random question that you probably were not thinking was going to be asked you at church this morning. But how many people have already got their Christmas shopping done? Really? It's like four. I guarantee you, I would lay money on it that Angie Shoger, that you have got in LaGrange, you have got yours done. I don't know anybody else who has their whole year of teaching done ahead of time in July. So you must have your Christmas shopping done. And by the way, I need an XL if you haven't got that yet. But anyway, so Angie, nothing but love for you. So anyway, really? See, I don't have mine done either. But last Christmas was a really kind of weird Christmas for us. We moved to Noonan on November 30th. We officially moved here November 30th. And then my daughter graduated from college, so that was kind of crazy. And then so we had kind of planned that we were going to go on a trip somewhere. So we did. So she finished, she had finals, and then we went on this trip out of the country for a few days. And then we came back and went to graduation. And then we had, my daughter had to have surgery, and so we were at a hospital for 4 or 5 days before Christmas. And then we came back here and had Christmas. So I went and bought a Christmas tree like December 22nd. And at that point in time, if this has never happened to you, because we're live Christmas tree people because we love Jesus. And so I'm trying to find a Christmas tree in Noonan. Doesn't exist. They're like, why are you waiting? I'm like, why don't you save one for me? I mean, the Charlie Brown Christmas trees were not an option at this point. And I thought, well, I'll get a Christmas tree for like $12. No. I'm used to living close to, for the last almost 20 years, I live close to the North Carolina mountains, so Christmas trees there are much less expensive than here, especially when they look like Charlie Brown Christmas tree rejects. But anyways, I was hustling, and honestly, I'm sort of a last minute kind of guy about Christmas gifts and birthday gifts sometimes, but lately I've tried to get a little better about that. But anyways, get some Christmas tree, get it taken care of. And so then I run by the bank, just in case there's a national emergency and I need cash for the next 2 or 3 days. The only time in my life I ever have cash with me. But I'm at the bank and I'm standing in line at the bank. It's just that, I think it's December 23rd at this point. And, you get to the bank and, maybe I went to the bank maybe 3 times last year. So, but anyway, I'm there and there's like one teller and 17 of us standing in line. And you may find this hard to believe, but sometimes I get kind of rowdy. And so I get kind of bored, and so I'm offering an ongoing commentary to how people should be moved through the line and what should be happening and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm talking with people there and who are around me in line. And so I asked them that question because we were kind of running out of things to talk about. And I said, so everybody here got their Christmas shopping done yet? And there's like 4 or 5 people that are listening to me, and the rest of the people that are playing on the phone like, I wish the old man would shut up. This is a bank. It's like a library. You're not supposed to talk here. Libraries and elevators. You're never supposed to talk. You're just supposed to stand there and wait for your death. So I'm sitting there and just kind of hanging out, doing my thing. And so this lady says, well, have you got your Christmas shopping done yet? I said, well, as a matter of fact, that's why I'm here at the bank. I'm going to get some money and go buy something for my wife. And she said, so what are you going to buy? And I said, I'm going to Walgreens. I'm going to buy one of those microwave bacon cookers. And she said, you are not. I said, I am. I said, I'm sitting here thinking real seriously about while I'm there buying some McGuire's car wax, because I have a Jeep that needs wax, and some Armor All. And I'm thinking about letting her clean that up for me tomorrow. And that woman said, I've heard about men like you. I said, well, good for you. And I'm just messing with her, right? I'm messing with her. There's other people in line. They're all sitting around. And have you ever seen Seinfeld? You ever seen, Elaine Bennis goes, yeah, like that. I don't even know this woman, right? And she's like, I can't believe you're doing that. I'm like, I can't. That's assault. What are you doing? You're on camera, ma'am. Do you see that? The other cameras around here? So anyway, we're sitting there and we're sort of having that conversation. I said, no. I said, let me tell you. I said, seriously. I said, I give my wife the second best gift I buy at Christmas every year. And she said, so I guess you give the best gift to yourself. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be the preacher here for a minute. Here I go. And I said, no. I said, listen, my wife is my very best friend, and I love her, and I love spending time with her. She thinks I'm funny. She thinks that, I said, she's delusional. She thinks I'm attractive. I said, so pray for her. I said, here's the deal. I said, no. I said, I give her my second best gift every year. I said, I give the best gift every year to Jesus. And she went. I said, look, I'm not trying to convert you. I'm not trying to proselyte you. Nothing, proselytize you, none of that stuff. I said, I'm just being honest with you. I said, because he's done more for me even than my wife has, and we just celebrated our 30th anniversary. I said, he's known me since before I was born. And she just kept doing. So I think Christmas is a big deal. I love giving gifts. You give gifts to the people you love, and the more you love those people, the better gift that you want to give them, right? That's why you go to your family Christmas, and there's some of those people you don't love very much. What do? Here's a gift card. That's easy, right? Here's some cash. Tell you what, I'll give you $25. You give me $25 back. We'll call it even. Right? That's what the gift card exchange is, right? Well, you better get them something. How much did they give us last year? Right? There's all that. But no, when you really love somebody, you say, I'm going to give you something good, right? So I spend a lot of time thinking about those people in my life that I love the most and what I'm going to get them. And here's the thing. I'm going to talk about this a little bit. We're still in Philippians chapter 2. We're going to get there in a little bit. So we're heading there. But here's what I want to tell you first, is that everybody matters to God. Do you know that? Everybody matters to God. So you know what that means? That means everybody matters to us. And here's my opinion. Because everybody matters to God, we got to keep in mind that everybody matters to God whether God matters to them or not. Because there are a lot of people, they don't care right now that God matters to them. There was probably a time in your life when you didn't care whether you mattered to God or not, right? It wasn't a big deal to you. It was just a something. And, this is a time of year we're getting ready to start something big that is going to be an opportunity for us to really show generosity to people. And what's the big deal about being generous? The big deal about being generous is that, you know what? Most people think that Christ followers are tightwads. Do you know that? Do you know if you're planning on going to lunch in just a little bit and you're going to go to a restaurant, that most of the wait staff there would rather have work some day other than Sunday, and it's not because they don't like working Sundays, it's because Christians don't tip. We're the kings of saying, oh, what, I should, 3 or 4 couples go out to lunch, or a couple families, let's put a couple tables together so we're all there together and we're kind of demanding. And instead of just sitting there and getting up, we stay there for an hour and a half, 2 hours because we're talking to our friends. And then we leave about a 4% tip and say, God bless you on the bottom. If you've ever worked on Sundays and you've been wait staff, you know what I'm talking about. And it makes a huge difference to people who are far from God when we show them that we want to do something for them for nothing. That's part of the reason we did Love Our Neighbors yesterday, is we spilled out into the community. We took care of a whole bunch of single moms, changing their oil and doing some basic car maintenance for them yesterday. It was an amazing thing to see. And then we had other places we're out doing different projects here and in LaGrange and seeing an opportunity to show people that we love them, no strings attached. And the thing is that being compassionate is not a natural thing. It's not something that we naturally do. We naturally, if we're left to our own devices, we're like a bunch of 4-year-olds. 4-year-olds, you generally don't have to go up to them very often and say, you're sharing too much. But please stop sharing things. No, typically it's mine is sort of where all that happens all the time. And so what we wanted to do leading up to this time of year is we wanted to identify some people in our communities who are doing a great job. And so what we've done, we've got, because we don't, if there's somebody in our communities that's doing a great job getting food to people who are hungry, we don't have to have a food pantry here, but what we can do is we can partner with them. If there's somebody else who's doing a great job of ministering to people who are struggling financially, we don't have to have our own thing here. We can partner with them. We don't have to duplicate them. We don't have to do competition. We can do cooperation. We can come right along beside them, and we can do some things with them rather than, just in spite of them, right? And so when we think about generosity a little bit, I think that we need to realize that God's generosity towards us has been lavish. And that God's lavish generosity toward us should compel us to be lavishly generous among others. And I use that word lavish on purpose, of course, because to me that's like I'm pouring out an abundance of it. Because that's what God has done. And don't confuse generosity and dollar signs. Because that's what a lot of times we do is we say, well, God wants to prosper his children, and he does. The Bible's very plain about that. I could show you that in, 15 probably different places in the Bible, that God wants to prosper his children. But that doesn't just mean dollar signs. And it might not mean dollar signs at all. But that's what God wants to do. He wants his children to be the people that he created us to be. So it's a big deal to him. And so, of course, Jesus talks about this too. Jesus says, of course, he says the golden rule, you're probably familiar with this, do unto others as they have done unto you. And maybe you heard this when you were a small child. Maybe you've heard this most of your life, this whole deal about do unto others as they've done to you. And somebody's like, well, I'll tell you what, he was mean to me, so I'll be mean to him. And so sometimes we kind of get that out of whack, but that's not really what that means. So I want to suggest to you this morning, the golden rule is tremendous, and I'm not saying that what I'm getting ready to show you is better than Scripture. I'm just thinking that's something that we should consider as something we should add. And so I call it the Southcrest rule. And here's the Southcrest rule. Do unto others as Jesus has done unto you. What if we would do that? What if this was something that characterized the way that we lived? That we say, look, I'm not going to do unto others just as they have done unto me. I'm going to raise it a notch, personally, just for us. I'm not saying this is better than Scripture. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, what if we were to do unto others as Jesus has done unto us? Now, let's be candid here for a minute. There are some people, you come to church because it's convenient, or because you want, you feel like you're supposed to, or because your mama will be proud of you when you call her tonight and she says, did you go to church today? And you say, yes, I did. But there are some people, and you're here because you want to make a tremendous difference in the kingdom. You want to change something. You don't want a legacy for yourself. You're all about Jesus. You didn't come here because the music is good and the coffee is outstanding. You came here this morning because you want to be with God's people and be in a time of worship with them. And so this ought to be the beat of your heart, right? I want to do unto others as Jesus has done unto me. So I want to show you a passage from James. And here's the thing, I love the book of James. And one of the reasons I love the book of James is because James was the brother of Jesus. Okay, so do the math with me. He was Jesus' younger brother. Okay, so Jesus is the oldest brother, and then a younger brother is James. Right? And so here's why I like the book of James so much. I don't have a brother. My whole life I have wanted a brother. I don't know that I would want a big brother. I might want to be the big brother. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But I don't have a brother. But if I had a brother and he was my older brother, and maybe this happened to you, but your older brother comes to you and says, I'm God. And see, this is why I love the book of James, because he grew up with Jesus, right? They're brothers. He's like, dude, you're all kind of things, but you are not God. I mean, if I had a big brother, I'm not, and he tells me he's God, I'm not sitting there going, well, I'm going to worship you. I'm not doing that. But apparently, Jesus lived the kind of life that when his little brother sees the kind of life he lives, and he goes, yes, I'm going to worship you. Yeah, you're the Lord. That's who you are. And you talk differently, and you walk differently, and you carry yourself differently. There's something different about you. And so when James writes things in Scripture, you've got to remember he is writing these things through the eyes of seeing Jesus as being his big brother. So let's take a look at this. Just one verse this morning, right? So it says, religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this. So he says, so this word religion that makes us uncomfortable sometimes because we talk about that a lot in the modern church. We say that we're not about religion, we're about a relationship. That's one of our catchphrases, right? And you hear that everywhere, almost everywhere in a new church. That we're not religious people, we're relationship people. Right, I get that. So I'm with you on that. But here's what the Bible uses this word, and it's talking about practice. How do we live? Okay? So if that word religion makes you kind of unsettled this morning, think about this is how the way we live, right? So the way we live that is pure and undefiled. Now, so undefiled, think of this word as being diluted, okay? How many people in here like black coffee? I mean, just straight black coffee. Anybody? See, I'm not man enough to drink straight black coffee. I have to dilute it. I put sugar in it, and I put lots of cream, and sometimes I put flavors in it because I want it to taste like hot liquid donuts. That's what it's supposed to be. I'm bitter enough already. I don't need to be drinking bitter things. Some people say, well, I like the taste of coffee for the way it tastes. I love you, but I do not. All right, so I have to put things in it. I dilute it. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about that, or when you've been drinking, as most people in the South say, when you're drinking a Coca-Cola, you get in the right place in the South, and it's a Coca-Cola. But you're drinking that, and the ice starts to melt, and then it becomes something worse than Pepsi. You know what I'm talking about? Because Pepsi, that's the drink of the Antichrist. You realize that, right? That's Third Hesitations, chapter 9. When the Antichrist comes back, he'll have a can of Pepsi. You read that, right? So anyway, you want to email me about that? My email is mattmcfadden@southcrest.church. That's my name, Matt McFadden @southcrest.church. Okay, you send it to him. So anyway, diluted, watered down. He said, look, so we don't want something that's diluted and watered down. So when I sit here and say religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, there's all kinds of things. So what would you put next? What would you put next? If you grew up in church, if church is not relatively new to you, but maybe you've been around church for a while, maybe you might say that religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: going to church in your Sunday best and bringing your Bible. That was me. That was what I grew up in. I had a drug problem. My parents drugged me to church every Sunday whether I wanted to go or not. And I had a Bible. I always had a Bible. It had pictures in it. I had a children's Bible. And do you remember it used to be really important if you went to church 20 years ago, that you not only went to church, but you took your Bible, but you probably had a really big Bible. You probably had a study Bible, and it was about that thick. And it had all kinds of notes in it. And then you had to have a Bible holder. Do you remember those? And you're toting that thing around. You had 3 or 4 pens in it and some notes and everything else stuck in there. And you had to get a Bible holder because they didn't have carry-on luggage at that point that you could roll it around in. I mean, it was that big. It was huge. But that was really important. And it was all about how you dressed. You know, when I was a little boy, my mother would take me, every time I grew a little bit, she would take me back to the department store, and she would get me a new little jacket to wear and a clip-on tie and a blue shirt and a pair of pants and some more shoes. And those were my Sunday clothes. And we never wore Sunday clothes except on Sunday. That was sort of what I grew up in, and my mother would always hand me an offering envelope, and she would put a dime in it or a quarter, and I was supposed to go into this little classroom, and I was supposed to hand them that offering envelope, and it was that sort of that was sort of what I grew up in. That's sort of what I thought, or maybe you would say this. You would say religion that's pure and undefiled before God the Father is this: going to mass and praying the rosary. Maybe that's your background. And maybe that's what you did, and that was really important. But see, the thing is regardless, it was all about being there. It was about just go to church. Just go to church. Just get there. And we'd like to think that, our moms and dads, they kind of had things kind of off kilter. We've got it all right. But unfortunately, the new church, we came along and we did the same thing. And here was our emphasis: how many people can we get here? It was not what's going on Monday through Saturday, but how many people can we get here on Sunday morning? And that's what we said. We're doing a great job because we had all these people here. No life change, but there's tons of folks here. And it all became about, hey, just come, sit and listen. Just come, sit and listen. Just come, sit and listen. Right? And, the thing is if religion for you is just a routine, and maybe you've seen this happen in your life, maybe you've seen this happen in the lives of your friends. If religion for you is just a routine, then what happens is at some point you're going to become cynical and critical. Because you come in and you start watching the show, evaluating everything that's said, not said, what's sung and not sung, what note was right, was the coffee sour, what happened with my kids. And so what happens, it starts to, after a while, it starts to feel watered down, diluted, and you get bored. And so what happens after a while, you quit coming to church. Because why? If I'm just supposed to be there, what's the point of this? And see what happened, and I'm part of this too, and I hate it that I did this. But apparently, what I communicated, and what communicated other places as well, was that it's all about us. How many people can we get here? How amazing can everything be? What's the wildest, most outlandish thing that we can do? And if we have more people here next week than we had this week, that's a win, right? That's sort of what happened. And we communicated when we're doing that it's just all about us. And it's not about God. We've missed it. We've just become watered down Coke. Coffee with a bunch of sugar and cream in it. Here's what James says. He says, religion that's pure and undefiled before God the Father is this. He says, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction. So, if your religion stops with you, then your religion stops short, doesn't it? It's not just about you. It's not just about me. It's more than sermons and songs. There's more to it than that. So, widows and orphans. Let's talk about this for just a minute. So, when James is writing this, when there are widows and orphans that he's talking about that we should be ministering to, taking care of, at that particular point in history, people were primarily, not all the time, but primarily orphaned or widowed because their husband or father had died. So that's what happened at that point in time. Now, in our current culture, in our communities, what goes on with us is that primarily the orphans and widows are orphaned and widowed primarily because dad and husbands have run off, have abandoned them, have walked away from them, are not embracing their responsibility as men. You say, Arthur, I don't like that because it's sometimes it's a woman's fault, a wife's fault, a mom's fault. Yeah, sometimes it is. But overwhelmingly, because I believe that the husband is the head of the marriage and of the home, primarily, I don't know, 85, 90% of the time, it's the man. And so the orphans and widows were afflicted, and affliction does not mean sickness. Affliction means to put pressure on someone. They felt pressured. Somebody's pushing down on them. They're enduring pressure that they ought not to have to endure. That's what husbands and fathers are for. Is that the orphans and the widows in the time of the pressure they felt was because the husband, the dad, was dead. In our culture, it's because the husband and the father has disappeared. Most human pressure comes at the hands of other humans. That's how that works. And the rest of this verse says to visit orphans and widows in their affliction and to keep oneself unstained from the world. And to keep oneself unstained from the world. So we've got to be part of the solution, but don't create the problem. So what does religion that honors God, what does that look like? Well, according to this one verse we looked at here, religion that honors God reduces pressure and avoids the behaviors that create it. So we're not looking to increase pressure on people. We want to reduce pressure on people. And we practice selflessness and self-control. We don't stain ourselves. We practice selflessness, serving others, and self-control. So you could look at it this way. Religion that honors God is keeping ourselves from something and making ourselves available to others. It's not terribly complicated. That's one of the things I love about being a Christ follower is that it's not complex. It's simple. I didn't say it's easy, but it is simple. So then let me show you. Let's look over in Philippians chapter 2. If you've got a Bible, you can flip over there. If not, just follow along on the screen. Philippians chapter 2, verse 12 says this. Therefore, my beloved, as you have always obeyed, so now, not only as in my presence, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So we back up and say, okay, there's this word therefore. What's the therefore there? That's what we talked about last week. We talked about consider others better than yourselves. That you have the mind of Christ and you don't just think, yeah, he's sort of a little better. No, we change the way we think because Christ is in us. We talked about this last Sunday and say, no, others are better than me. That's the way we look at them. Do nothing out of vain conceit, but in everything consider others better than you. We talked about that last week. Okay, so therefore, because of that, as you have always obeyed, so now not only is in my presence, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm supposed to do some things so that I can be saved? No. When he says work out your own salvation, it's realize that God has done something incredible in you, and I'm going to respond to God with awe, with worship. I realize what he's done. And when you realize that there's somebody who's so much more than you ever get a little bit trembly? It happens. I don't want to be so confident in that I don't ever want to be talking down to God. He's not my butler. So that's when he talks about work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, it's talking about that I'm going to respond to the Lord with all. It says, for it is God who works in you. When we're able to do these things for other people, it's not that we do it because we're good, nice people, but because God is working in us, both to will and to work for his good pleasure. And he says, do all things without grumbling or disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish, in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. So what's Paul saying here? He says the world's a dark place. The world's a difficult place. It's hard. People want to do their own things. They want to be their own God. They want to have their own agenda, their own plan, their own master diagram. I'm going to get there on my own. I'm smart enough, fast enough, good looking enough, connected enough, whatever. I can do this. And he says, that's the world. He says, but if you will consider others better than yourself, you will shine as lights. There's another translation that says that you will shine as stars. And so you look up in the night sky on a clear night, and you see the light that those stars give out in the midst of darkness. And he says, when we do this, we shine. We shine. In a dark, dreary place, we shine. You ever in a place where it's dark? I mean, so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face? And the light comes on for just a minute, and the dark can be a fearful place. But that's what we do. We walk into the darkness. We consider others better than ourselves. The light that is in us in Jesus, we bring that and we shine that into the darkness. So that's why for the next 5 weeks, we're just talking about it today, but for the next 5 weeks, we're doing Southcrest Gives, because we want to be stars in the darkness, shining like lights, bringing hope to people who are stuck in the dark. That's what we want to do. And then, and last year I had just gotten here, and we called this the Christmas Project. And so we're moving forward. We're calling it Southcrest Gives. And so this is going to be our deal, and this is something that we're going to take advantage of, and that we're going to do, and we're going to move forward on this year after year. I'm excited about what we're going to do this year, because what we're going to do is we're going to unleash generosity. Because you know what? People think that are not Christ followers, they think we're tightwads. They think that we're tight with our love, with our money, with our stuff, with our intellect, with our gifts, with our homes, with all of our stuff. They think they do. They think we're tightwads, and we're going to unleash generosity. We're going to change people's mindsets. I hope we change everybody's mindset, but maybe if we don't change everybody's mindset, let's change the mindset of a couple thousand people, because I think we can do that. We're going to unleash generosity. We're going to reduce pressure for those who are under pressure. So we have partnered. We've got 4 different ministry partners in LaGrange. We have 6 in Noonan. And so what are we going to do is we're going to relieve pressure for them. We're going to reduce pressure. We're going to come alongside them and say, hey, look, what can we do so that you're not so pushed down all the time? How can we help? That's one of the things we did here yesterday. Do you know that from 9 a.m. to after 12 yesterday, we changed oil and did basic car maintenance on all these cars for single moms yesterday? Do you know how pressure-packed that is for some of those women? They know their car, and listen, they roll in here, and some of their cars, you're like, I wouldn't drive that car. Look, there are people who showed up here yesterday, and they stop up here at the top of the driveway, and they can't roll down the window because the window's broken, and they have to open the door to say, hey, is this the right place where I can get my oil changed? And you know that a lot of times for a woman that she feels very nervous going somewhere to get her car worked on because it's all men there, and she's afraid she's going to get taken advantage of, and they're going to come back and say, well, I could fix this car, but it's going to cost you $700. And she goes, I don't have $700. I don't have $70. He says, well, sorry, that's all I can do for you. And they, because they've been pushed down so much pressure on them that they go worst case scenario. That's our default setting. That's where they move to very quickly. And so that's what I'm talking about. Those kind of things. We're going to make ourselves available to others. And all of this is, the Bible says, you can read this in Romans chapter 12. I don't have time to talk about it today, but it's an act of worship. Every single bit of it. It's an act of worship when we do this. So what are we going to do? We got 5 weeks. We're going to do 5 things. What are we going to do? We're going to adopt. We're going to adopt families for Christmas. There are tons of children in LaGrange and here in Noonan that will not have the opportunity for Christmas this year. So we're going to adopt children and help them out their Christmas. So would you consider adopting a child for Christmas this year? And 2 ways you can do this, right? One of that way is that you can go to southcrest.church/events, and you'll see there's something on there. You can just click right on there. And you don't have to get out of your seat and do this. I'm going to be talking for about 7 more minutes, so you can do that right now. Okay? southcrest.church/events. You go there, you'll see there's something, you can just click on that and just go right there. Or in just a minute, at both of our campuses, you can go out into the lobby when our worship service is done, and what you can do is you can go sign up for a child. And so, and I think everybody ought to adopt a child for Christmas. We're going to do that, and we're going to reduce some pressure there. The next thing is we're going to give. And so I want to ask everybody to give $29.95. All right? If every single person watching this and gives $29.95, every single person, we'll give $70, $80, $90, $100,000. But anyway, with every single person, that's $1 a day for the next 5 weeks. Would you give $1 a day, every single person, man, woman, student, child? Would you give $1 a day to help some of our partners and our missionaries? We have 5 missionaries serving in different places around the world that come out of Southcrest, and we want to bless them. We want to reduce pressure on them. We're going to bring, in a couple of weeks, we're going to bring, asking everybody, would you bring 10 pounds of food? And you can find all this at southcrestgives.com. You can find it right there. And the food list of what we need, the food list in LaGrange is different than the one in Noonan. So go find out what that food list is. Would you consider bringing some food and donating on November 17th? And we're going to serve. Asking every family, would you serve 5 hours? Over the next 5 weeks, would you serve 5 hours somewhere in our community? And there's all kinds of ideas on the southcrestgives.com about some things that you can do together as a family. I would love it if every single marriage, every single adult, every single person knew the value of serving and the joy it brings to you when you serve. What if we were to do that? And then the other thing is, would you invite 10 people to our Christmas Eve services? Our Christmas Eve services are an incredible opportunity for us to share the gospel with people, for people to be encouraged, for people far from God to walk into a relationship with Him. And we'll talk more about all this stuff in the weeks to come. But here's what I want to encourage you to do today. Give $29.95 before midnight tonight. Right? And here's the deal. And you said, why $29.95? Because I thought it was fun. Okay? But every single person can give $29.95, right? And so there's 7,000 different ways that you can do that, right? But I want 100% participation. That's what we got to have. We need everybody to do this because I think everybody can. We didn't say everybody give $4,000. We said everybody give $29.95. So you could do that right now, right? You don't have to wait till December 8th. You could do it right now. It's $29.95. That's easy. Now, some of you are pulling your phones out and you're starting to do it. So thanks for doing that. But here's what I want you to do. Some of you can add a 0 to this. You could do that. It'd be okay. You could give more than 29. Some of you could add a couple zeros. You know, because here's the thing. Some of you could add 2 zeros to that and you would never miss it. and you would reduce pressure on somebody who is really feeling pressure. There's all kinds of ways you do this. You can text an amount to 84321. Just use that short code. Pull your phone out, text 84321. Put an amount down there in the to line of that text. Hit send. And in about 4 seconds, you'll get something coming right back to you, and it'll tell you, here's the next thing to do. Or you can just go to southcrestgives.com. And you go to the LaGrange campus or the Noonan campus, and then you go after that, then you'll go in there, and you'll see Give $29.95 on that next page. You click Give, and you can just do it online. Turns out, we can also do this with checks and cash. Really amazing, right? So if you got cash in your pocket right now, so I'm going to take care of this right now. Reach and grab an envelope out of the seat back in front of you, stuff it in there, write Southcrest Gives on the outside of the envelope, and in just a minute when we leave, just drop it in a basket. Do that. Do the same thing with the check. Okay? It doesn't have to be done online, but that's easy. Everybody can do that. Every single one of us can jump in there, and we can do that. And so I think that's easy, right? Is that complicated? You might think that's complicated? Okay, nobody says no, it's complicated. Okay, that's good. And let me tell you this real quickly, because this may apply to somebody somewhere. If you've got a donor advice fund that you're a part of, we've already vetted these partners and these missionaries, so you don't have to go do all the research on it. You can take care of it that way. If you have a foundation that you're a part of, again, we've already vetted these folks, and so they meet all the criteria for any kind of foundation donations that you might have. And if you're online and you're watching us online today, you can do this right now. It's easier for you than anybody else because you're already online right now, so you can go and click up in the upper right-hand corner if you're on our website, or if you're watching us on Facebook this morning, you can open a new window in your browser and then go southcrestgives.com, and you can just go ahead and do that right now. And I'm waiting. I'll just wait here. No, don't go get coffee. No. You could do that now, right? And here's the thing that you need to know is we're giving it all away. Okay? You know how much of this we're keeping? 0. 0.00. That's how much we're keeping. It's all leaving here, 100%. Okay? And we're going to send it to Southcrest missionaries, and we're going to send it to Southcrest partners. That's what we're going to do. And so we'll talk about bringing food, and we'll talk about serving. You can adopt a child today and next Sunday, but let's all give $29.95. We can do this. And if you want to write a bigger check, you can. It's okay. I say this all the time. I believe leaders go first. So as soon as everything got set up on our giving, I was the first one that gave. And so Lori and I gave a large check to this already because I think that we should go first. So I hope that you'll come along with us. Well, I mean, what would happen? Ashley, you want to come on out and start playing? See, this is game-changing stuff for people. This is life-changing stuff for people. When we partner together, we're going to see people come to know Christ. That's what's going to happen. And here's the real simple question that you should ask. You're sitting there going, I don't know if I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Here's what you should do about adopting and giving and bringing and serving and inviting. If all of us do this, everyone here, everyone in LaGrange, everybody online, everybody who's a part of Southcrest but's not here today, what kind of impact is that going to make? I have no idea. More than I can imagine. And so here's the thing. Here's the question to ask yourself. If the person beside me gets as involved in this as I'm going to get involved in this, what kind of impact is that going to make? In other words, if you just sit and watch, nothing much might happen. If we get 10, 15, 20% of the people who are involved at Southcrest, if they participate, it'll be great. So Arthur, I don't think you ever get 100% participation. Okay, fine. Nelly negative. What if we only got 70% of people participate? What would that be? Don't just like Jesus. Love him. He gave his life for you. We don't do this all the time. This is an opportunity for us to come together as God's people and make a difference that's bigger than any of us can make by ourselves. So come on. Come on. Let's be a part of God doing something big.